Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to give you an update tour of the flower beds and containers down here at our local community college. It has been, I looked it up this morning, 48 days since we planted, and this is our third year doing this project, and we've learned a lot along the way, but this has been a weird year weather-wise. And I know we've talked about it a bunch, but we've had so much more rain than normal, and we're used to just turning on our irrigation systems, and we just have to leave them on for the whole season and keep them on consistently. And this year we've been having to turn them off for 4 days in a row, and then turn them back on for 2 days, and then turn it off for 3 days. It's just been one of those weird things we're not used to. But this year's planting, the actual planting of these flowers right here, we had friends come in from several different states, Minnesota, California, Washington, and it was a fun project. We just had the best time chatting and doing this together. It's been a fun year. And I wanted to start right here because, oh my word, you guys, look at this. It's kind of a raised bed right here. This is one of the entryway beds, which I'll go stand in the front of it in a minute. I did try to beat the sun today. I set my alarm real early so I could get out here when it was nice and cool and everything was in the shade, and I hit snooze like 4 times. So anyway, some of it's gonna be in the sun. But this is what I was going for. It is so beautiful. I think one of my favorite plants right here is this deeply bold red geranium. It's just absolutely phenomenal, and I don't know, I mean, it looks like Rosa has been deadheading, and major props to Rosa for taking care of all of these things. She's the gal that you usually see in our planting videos because she'll get right in there and help us plant, and then she follows behind us to water everything in. Some of these things are on drip, like everything we're looking at right here in this area is on drip, but a ton of their containers are not. So she has to go around every day and take care of things, and she fertilizes. She does an amazing job. So it does look like there really aren't spent blooms on these plants, so I bet you she's been after them. But they look so good, and they're backed by the plain the blue salvia, and we kind of wanted to do an Americana theme right here, and I think this nailed it. It's just so pretty. And then the Supertunia Mini Vista White right here. My goodness, these plants are happy. I'm just so thrilled with it. Okay, I'm gonna stand in front of the bed so we can kind of take the whole thing in. Here we are, you can see the red, white, and blue again. I used in this area purple fountain grass, which once that reaches its height, we've got them just kind of dotted all through here. That's gonna be a super beautiful, weighty element in this area. And it has started to put on a bit of growth. We've had a lot of heat the last, like, I don't know, 7 to 10 days or so. And we've got a lot of heat coming, so those will just shoot up. Then we've got plain the blue salvia down here, which I don't know if we can flash back, but these have what, like ×8 the size of when we put them in the ground. They're really looking great, and I can see honeybees flying all around the area. I love it. And then in front of that, we've got the Supertunia Mini Vista White, so a repeat of the one back there. Loving that plant. The other two, not loving them this year. They're okay. There's a Supertunia Mini Vista Scarlet, which is a new one, but in many areas that we planted it, like, it looks okay here, but look at this. It's like if fading out, and I don't know if that's something that it normally does, because, you know, some of them aren't doing that, or if it's a water issue or a soil issue, but a lot of them look like a faded kind of pink. I don't know. Hindsight, I would have done Supertunia really red. That one maintains color, and I just wanted to do all mini vistas because I kind of wanted all the same flower shape, but I had no experience with this particular variety. Well, I planted it in a container last year, but it was super late in the season. I don't really feel like I gave it a fair shake last year. Didn't notice the color fade, so maybe it's a water issue, maybe it's all the rain, I don't know. And then the Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo, I do love this plant, but see, this one does this normally. It has the kind of darker lavender and then the lighter lavender, and then some of the blooms age to almost kind of a white, like a silver. And while that's very pretty, and I loved it last year, we had it in with like pinks and things like that, I like it better when you're not using it as like the blue element in a red, white, and blue color scheme. And I know it's purple, it's not blue, but there's not a lot of options for full sun loving, like can take a ton of abuse and ton of heat plants that have true blue colored flowers that I know of, that we've had good luck with anyway in our landscapes during the summer. So oftentimes purple gets subbed in for blue, but either way, Hindsight, I would have swapped out the Mini Vista Scarlet for Supertunia Really Red, and I probably would have done the Super Bina Imperial Blue as my blue element in this arrangement, and I think that that would have maybe given me that punch of color that I'm after. I'm still really happy with it. I think it's looking really good, and maybe we just need to give it a little bit of time. Just with our weird weather patterns and all the cool temps and all the moisture, maybe things just need a chance to settle into this heat. Now the containers are just a repeat of what we just looked at. So we've got a purple fountain grass as our centerpiece. We've got the red geraniums, and see, I probably wouldn't have used this one in here. Just the red element being the geranium, and then the white and blue being the Mini Vistas there. Still looks great. Plants look healthy. Okay, we've got several containers in this area I want to show you, as well as the bare root roses. I'll give you an update on those. One container here by the Science Center. Kept this one real simple, but boy, it's looking pretty. Oh, I love it. We've got a Truffula Pink Gomphrena. I used one in this container. One plant, you guys. 2 Supertunia Royal Velvet and a Supertunia Mini Vista Violet Star in the center. It's just a really pleasing blend. I really like it. Last year I used kind of reds in this area, and this building, when the sun gets over the pine tree here, it is baked. Like, it is so hot, and this building's kind of a tan color, so when you've got the tan with the hot sun, that makes everything orange, and the red colored flowers, the whole area just seemed visually hotter. I think these cooler colors are nice. Okay, driving to our next area. We're gonna be driving all over the land today. This campus is huge. Okay, we're on the other side of the Science Center now. We've got a shade container. It's kind of in the sun right now, but it looks so pretty. Look at this. I love this combination so much more than last year's. Last year I used reds again in this container, and I just feel like this is so soothing to look at. So there's a Pegasus begonia here in the back. Guys, I can't help it. I just have to pop those bloom stalks off. And then we've got a couple of, I want to say these are Rose Glow caladiums. And they just beautifully mirror these are the double, not double up, double delight, blush rose begonias. So pretty. Look at them cascading over the side right there. And then the Dichondra Silver Falls. It's just such a peaceful blend. Really happy with that. I try to control myself deadheading other people's stuff, but there's nobody around this morning, so we're good. Okay, we're at the front of the Science Center now. This one actually gets full sun about midday to the end of the day. So we've got a Skyrocket Pennisetum as our centerpiece, which this one is a little bit slower to grow than the purple fountain grass. This one takes a while, but it does form a beautiful vertical, like pretty tall, I want to say 3 feet tall or upwards of that, vertical accent in the middle of a container. We've got the Supertunia Raspberry Rush, which as far as a stripy petunia goes, this is one of my favorites, just because they perform so well, or I've had real good luck with them. We've got Super Bina Whiteout right here, and then we've got Bidens looking real pretty. I mean, it's just a very bright, pretty blend. Oh, we're almost to the Courtyard. It's over there, and I can see lots of color. You know, we've been so busy, we haven't even had a chance to come down here and walk around and look at things. And we usually like to, you know, do that. We've driven through a couple of times later in the evenings with the kids, but it's fun to just get up close on these things. Ooh, these are pretty too. A couple more containers here. Maybe this one's easier to see. You can see that they do get some morning sun. Oh, well, this one might be easier to see. I don't know. But we've got a Limetime Coleus, which was much smaller than the Pegasus begonias when we planted them, and it's now starting to push through, and that's meant to be the centerpiece plant. So by our next update tour, I bet you we've got a lot more of that color popping through. There's the Pegasus begonia. There's 3 of those. There's some Surefire white begonias, some Terenia. This is the large wave purple, which it looks like it's cycled out of bloom here. Well, there's some more blooms right here. Yeah, it's kind of tucked in there still. Yeah, on this one, which clearly gets a little bit more light, they have started to trail over the sides. Still, looks like they've cycled out of color a bit. You don't have to deadhead these in order for them to keep blooming, but I planted that same variety in one of our chicken coop pots that doesn't get very much light at all, and I have been so impressed with it. I can't remember if I showed you in one of our latest tours, but right now it is so full of color and they've gotten so big. I've never had Terenia really perform like that for me. Okay, while we're here, look at all the roses. Do you remember when we put these in the ground? Bare root, tiny. They have already bloomed. They're kind of flushed out at the moment because they kind of tend to do that when we get upwards of 100 and over 100 degrees. And then it takes them a minute and they kind of, you know, reflush. But for a bare root rose, I mean, you can see how much color they did have. I mean, they have just done beautifully in this spot. I'm so thrilled with these. There's a few more on that side. Oh yeah, look at how pretty. I don't think they've lost a single one. And they don't have any leaf stress. I mean, they all look deep green. There's no issues going on. We did have a hailstorm come through, so I do see maybe a little bit of hail damage on a few leaves, but nothing else. They look great. Okay, now around this building to the courtyard. This side of the building, it looks like they've got barberries and forsythia, which at one time probably got more sun than they're getting now because these trees are a lot bigger. Looking pretty good though. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, look. Look at how beautiful. Okay, so you can tell we went heavy with the Super Vista Jazzberry in here. A lot of play in the blues, which is filled in beautifully. We did Vertigo Pennisetum in this bed and one other bed because they didn't have an anchor tree, which all the other ones have a big crab apple in them. So we needed a vertical element there. Looks like we maybe lost a plant right in this area here. Not bad. And then the perennial salvia. See, this is a perfect example why annuals, especially in an application like this, tend to be a little bit better, because while perennials are amazing and awesome and do save you money over time and such, they look like this. You know, they flush out, look beautiful. They did when we were planting, they looked great, but then we have to shear them back and then it takes several weeks for them to recover and to produce color, and the second flush is never really as good as the first flush, while our annual salvia looks like this all summer, all the summer long. So especially in high traffic commercial areas, I feel like this is just the way to go. They do have some perennial Rudbeckia in there, and that there are a few perennial exceptions, I feel like, because there are several that come up and they don't put on like a first flush of bloom. They just start to bloom and then keep blooming all season, kind of like Yarrow Sedum, Echinacea or the Rudbeckia. They just look great all the time. And I think those types are wonderful for applications like this. Oh, but look at that. You know, the light shining on it just makes it glow. We have this sweet potato vine called Sweet Caroline Sweetheart Light Green, which is much more it trails much more than the Sweetheart Lime, which I prefer the Sweetheart Lime usually, but I couldn't get my hands on it. I ordered it and I don't know what happened, but I ended up with far less than I needed for all of these plantings. So we ended up with the light green, which brings us that color, but it's not quite as tidy of a growth habit. Oh, and then if you look over here, I used a bunch of Surefire Whites kind of in the more shaded areas underneath trees. Same with over here. And they were itty bitty when we planted them. So I'm excited to see them grow and fill in and, you know, kind of cover more of the soil. But I think having that white pop in there is really nice. And there's the Rudbeckia. And I do think that that is a beautiful color accent in here. Wonderful. You know what? Russian sage is another really good one you can use in applications like this. Okay, so the containers along this side of the building, now this is the south side and it gets baked by the sun here. In probably an hour or so it'll be in the full sun. So it's nice to look at these when it's cool. But we've got 3 different size of pots, and in each pot of the same size I planted the same thing. So I can't remember what the diameter is here. Anyway, we've got the purple fountain grass, which, my word, these have put on a ton of growth, probably because these get the radiant heat off the building, off of the concrete, and then they get full sun all day. While the entryway beds, you know, they're in the ground, so they stay much cooler. But we have that surrounded by Super Royal Velvet, the Mini Vista Pink Star, and Dichondra Silver Falls. Right here in these long, low rectangular containers, oh, they look so great. We've got the unplugged blue salvia, which I chose that instead of plain the blues in this case because they stay a little smaller. So just a little bit more proportioned to the height of the container. We have Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, Mini Vista White, and the Superbena Sparkling Amethyst. Isn't that beautiful? Love that. And then, oh, okay, I remember. So this size container is 21 inches, and the one we just looked at with the Pink Star Supertunia is 25. So in the 21-inch pots, we used the Blue Mohawk Juncus, which I really fell in love with last year. I love that they bring a vertical accent, but they're that cool green, like almost kind of a bluish, and they just aren't they don't distract your focus so much from what's going on below. You know, there's just not that much contrast in its growth habit and color. But we have the Supertunia Bordeaux looking fabulous, and the Mini Vista Violet Star and the Superbina Imperial Blue. So, so pretty. So in this rectangular container, we have, again, the same combination we just looked at, and then same for these as well. I kind of like to have a bit of a unified appearance. Oh, look at that Superbina. Oh my, my. Oh, that is so pretty. Oh my goodness. Don't you just love it when plants fill in like that? It happens most of the time, but sometimes it just, it's extra striking. And then this container and the one over there, again, are the same combination. Okay, I wanna walk through here, take a look at these beds, which again, they're all kind of repeat colors. You know, I don't mind that Sweet Caroline light green right now. It looks pretty coming over the edge, but I do anticipate the need to trim them as I start to get into the walkway, because I think that'll start to make things look a little bit messy. But right now they're looking really good. But I wanted to show you the Misty Seas combination that we used here in the rectangular planters in the center. So they used to have a fountain here, and they are gonna have a fountain here again, but they're working on something new. Right now, it's just kind of a gravel bowl at the moment. Oh, this looks so good, you guys. So this was one of the national recipes. Was it for this year? We planted it last year, which means we were probably previewing a 2023 recipe. So I think it's a this year recipe. I could be wrong. But we've got 3 of the blue juncus right here, and this is the combination that made me love it. I think it's so, so pretty. And then we've got a Supertunia Mini Vista White with the Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo, which I love this plant in this combination. It works. And the Supertunia Mini Vista Violet Star. I probably personally would have never put these plants all together in the same container, but I'm glad we have the opportunity to try out these recipes, because it really has me try things that I maybe wouldn't have tried. And that's the fun part about showing you guys how things have done for us. Because maybe, I mean, you take one thing away from today's tour and think, I like that plant, I'm gonna try that. You know, or something like that. I do that all the time. I see you guys posting pictures and I think, oh, I love that combination together. I gotta try that somewhere. Or yeah, it's just we all kind of gather inspiration from one another, hopefully. Okay, a couple more containers on this side, and then we're gonna head over to, we've got another entryway bed to look at, and those long shade containers over there. Okay. This container right here. Oh, it's looking so pretty. We've got the Stratosphere White Gara. Now this is a recipe for this year too. It's called Acapulco Sun, with the Stratosphere White Gara as a centerpiece, Supertunia Bermuda Beach, which this is not the improved Bermuda Beach, which is coming out next year. However, I like this color better. The new one is very bright, intense tropical coral, which is pretty, but there's a softness about this one, which I really love. And then we've got Super Barrels Coralina, and then we've got the Superbina Peachy Keen, which this is what it does for me, you guys. And I don't know, like it'll look amazing for a few weeks and then it kind of cycles out a bit, and then it will look amazing again and full of blooms. But it seems like there's a little bit of a lull every once in a while with that plant. But either way, that color, oh, that is so pretty. The thing I like about the Peachy Keen is that you get that really soft coral, but you get kind of that antique, creamy pink. I don't know. It's got a very antique vibe to it, and I love that. I did much the same in this container, but I know they had one plant die, so they popped a couple other, which looks really pretty. We've got this is a Sweet Sangria Supertunia new for next year. Violet Star, Coralina, Bermuda Beach. Oh, see, this Peachy Keen looks way better, way more full. So that's what I'm talking about. And then the Stratosphere White. That looks great. And then look at the Terrenia in this shade container. My word! Oh my goodness. Now, I did plant a lot of them in here, like 10, I think, in this container. Maybe that's what it takes. But they look amazing. And I kind of did this, well, it is exactly the same combination. I did a Lime-Time Coleus, which will end up being our taller element, Pegasus Begonias, which do bloom. They put out these little sweet pink blooms. Then we've got Surefire White Begonias in here, and then the Large Wave Violet Terrenia. And this sits on the north side of this enclosure here, so it gets shade all the time, and it looks stunning. It's just so fun to be able to walk, you know, around a corner on this campus and see another beautiful pot full of color. And they're all just a little bit different, which makes it a little bit more interesting, I think. Not this area. There's so much going on in the courtyard. In fact, I used less variety this year in this space than I did last year, because last year I used so many different things that I kind of felt like, whoa. a little bit too much, that I needed to tone down the amount of variety and just kind of amp up the quantity of each variety that I was using. And I do think that in an area where you see everything all at once, it tends to make it look a little more peaceful. All right, I think we will run over and look at those shade containers next. I'm gonna drive around. Okay, over here we've got two really long rectangular shaped shade beds. Like this one gets a little bit of sun in the early morning, but they're both under the canopy of some locust trees. So pretty much all day they're kind of in this filtered light shade situation, but they look so good. Look at these. So I just kind of did a menagerie of things in here. We've got some Newly Noir, Coleus, Wicked Witch, Lime Time. There's a few, can't remember the name of this caladium. Maybe we can pop it on the screen. And then, so it's a repeat of those plants kind of throughout the center. And then I came in with the Surefire Rose Begonias right here, and then the Dichondra Silver Falls all the way around. So if we move around the container, looks the same from both sides. And these have done really well. This one is a repeat, so same things, looking very, very pretty. Gosh, I just love the Dichondra. I just feel like that is such a beautiful, soft, less, I don't know, bulky, sort of trailing accent. And then over here we have another planter. Now it's in the shade now, but it'll be in the sun for the rest of the day here in just a little while. So there are 3 of the Salvia playing the blues. There are several of the Osteo bright white. So these little guys right here, bringing a nice white pop. This one looks like it's kind of in between bloom phases, but there are a bunch of buds on the plants, it looks like. And then we planted around all of that with Supertunia Bordeaux, and I want to say we just used Bordeaux, but this is one of the beds they had some water struggles with. In fact, they came by, it's been a couple of weeks ago now, but you know, out in the high tunnel, that's where I store and keep all of the plants for projects like this that we're working on, or projects that we have planned for the future. And I just went through and pulled everything that I could think of that I probably wouldn't need to use, that were just kind of extras. And they brought, I want to say that they picked up close to 80 plants or something like that. And they brought them down here and just popped them in areas where things weren't doing that well, because the next bed we're going to look at, the big entryway bed, that's been a struggle, and the gym bed has been a struggle as well. And I don't know if it was, well, the gym bed, I know the water was shut off and they thought it was on. So, you know, it's a bummer. We had so much rain there though that you couldn't really tell for a while, because they were doing okay enough between rainstorms, and then once the heat hit, you know, they thought the drip was on and it wasn't, and so a lot of it looks really rough. We'll go look at that here in a minute. And then I think the same thing for the entryway bed. So things like that do happen. It's a little bit of a bummer. I was hoping to give you a spectacular, you know, tour of that area, but you know, it's reality. Things happen like that, especially when you're relying on a drip system. And I'm not so sure that drip doesn't need to be replaced. It's been a couple of years, and typically we need to replace our drip every year or every other year because of hard water deposits. They plug up the emitters. So while you see it there and it might be emitting a little water, it's not quite enough for the plants to be really productive and flourish. Let's head up to that bed next. Okay, here we are. You can see that the sunflowers that we planted a while ago have seeded themselves and have come up, which, you know, they're getting a little tall at this point. We actually pulled a bunch of them that we saw coming up when we planted so that we could have a very uniform look, but maybe it's an okay thing that those popped up, because these Supertunia, the Mini Vista Scarlets in this area, ooh, rough, like low marks for that plant in this area. Again, though, I don't know if it's been a water issue. It looks wet right now, so it looks like whatever issue that they did have with the water, it's being worked out, hopefully. But yeah, they just kind of pop some new flowers in and around. Like this one's struggling right here, and that's super dry right there, so that one will perish. Gosh, boy, it maybe looks like this one's super dry too. Nope, that one's wet. I told Erin I kind of feel like I want to come along and just tear out all the Mini Vista Scarlet and all of the well, the Mini Vista Indigo. Some of them could stay, but just seed like a low growing zinnia or something like that to take up the space so that they're not limping by these plants that are just struggling so hard. But you know, again, they might bounce. I know they have been fertilizing. The salvia looks amazing, looks so great. playing the blues. The purple fountain grass is getting kind of shrouded by the sunflowers in some areas, but that's looking good too. The containers up here, so kind of a repeat of the other entryway bed. We've got the purple fountain grass, indigo, geranium, the Mini Vista white. And see, the Mini Vista scarlet here doesn't look too bad. Still got some red coloring in it. But this raised bed is looking beautiful as well. Look at that. Now the soil level was very low in this one, so it's gonna take a minute for these super tunias to make it up and over. But the plain little blues looks great. The geraniums look great. The white super tunias look great, so I'm very happy with that. Anyway, a little bit of a weird year for this little area here, but it's mainly just the plants right in front. So it could have been an issue, and I'm guessing it maybe was an issue with the drip lines that maybe just were right in the front, which can happen too. Maybe they were at the end of the run and they weren't getting quite as much water. Maybe they were more plugged up than the rest of it. But I mean, from this angle, you look at it from the side eye, there's some color there. It's better than nothing, better than bare ground. Okay, we've got a few more containers, the baseball diamond area and the gym bed to look at yet. There's one other spot where we put bare root roses, and I was just driving by and thought, you know what, I'm gonna stop here because these do have a lot more color. Look at how gorgeous these are. Oh my goodness. I cannot even believe these are the same roses we put in the ground this spring. Oh, they look so, so good. And these get hot morning sun, like clearly. First thing in the morning, there's really nothing blocking any sun from them. And they stay in the sun until, I wanna say, late afternoon. And that's probably why they are looking like they are. Wonderful. So she's got a setup kind of like ours with the trailer and the tank behind it. Yep, there she is watering. Hey Rosa. Good, how are you doing? Good. All right, so there are a total of 7 of these huge containers down here, and they all have a tree as a centerpiece, and I'm guessing that they're open on the bottom and go straight down to soil because these trees, especially like the hawthorns that are down here and those two, they're big and established, and they've been here for a long time. We'll just take a look at one of these since we planted them up all the same. But we've got the Surefire Cherry Cordial begonias in the center, which they haven't put on a tremendous amount of growth, but the color is beautiful. And then we surrounded those with the Lemon Coral Sedum and the Dichondra Silver Falls. It's just a really peaceful blend. They're looking really healthy. Okay, so here we are at the gym bed. You know, we planted some like 80 Atlas roses in here. And boy, when they were in bloom, so, so pretty. You can see a little bit of color still left on them. The sweet potato vine, surprising that that is looking so prime while the super tunias are looking so sad. But you can see the difference between the Sweetheart Lime and why I like this one versus the light green, because the light green by now would be all flopping over the edge. And while, you know, that's really nice to have in some applications, I just like this one will trail, but it just has such a tidy, clean look to it. And I love that. Now you can still see quite a bit of color, but if we get up close on these plants, you can see that they are looking a bit stressed. Some a little more than others, but the poor things, it just didn't have any water. And boy, I have been in their shoes before where, you know, I've completely killed something because I thought it had water and it didn't. There have been several times where I have planted shrubs in videos for you guys, and I've thought in my mind, because it's kind of muscle memory, or habit, I've thought, well, I ran up to it because it's all just part of the process, but I didn't for some reason. And then I go out the next day or two. I mean, in the summertime when we plant, because we plant all through the year, if we plant something this time of year, the next day, by the next afternoon, it would be dead if we don't get water to it on a normal summer day. So yeah, things like that just happen, which is a bummer. I think these plants will recover. I mean, as kind of puny as they look right now. When I was talking to Rosa, she said that she did fertilizer this week, and then she's going to do some chelated iron here at the beginning or at the end of this week. So these really should perk up, turn around, and start filling in again. So I'm hoping by the next tour, I mean, it might be kind of interesting to see where they look, or how they look now versus how they look after a little, well, moisture, you know, helpful, and then a little bit of fertilizer and iron, because, you know, that kind of, that trifecta right there can really make your plants look beautiful. Boy, just seeing the sun kind of glimmer across the tops of them, they really do look pretty. I mean, as long as you just, you know, again, just use your side eye, walk by them fast, not too bad. I can hear the drip on right now. And you guys, that is it. I think we made it to every area where we have things planted. And we will come back later and do another tour, but so far, my takeaways, which there are takeaways every year. You may think you have it dialed in, but every year, I swear I'm learning new things. The red geraniums are awesome. well, I'll keep using those, and anything in that series. I think that those are performing so well. I love the fewer varieties in the Courtyard area. Last year it was just too much. I used too many different colors. I love a lot of the shade combinations this year. I feel like they are really beautiful and they're really coming together nicely. I think next year we'll use some of this sweet potato vine in the entryway beds again. What happened is last year we used it, and by the end of the season, Aaron and I were like, oh my mercy, we used way too many in there, and it was kind of taking over because these kind of, they're a trailer, but they're kind of like a shrub. Like you almost need to place them behind the supertunias, which maybe I should have done that in this area, or maybe I shouldn't have, because this is what you're seeing a little bit more than the supertunias at this point, which is kind of a good distraction in this area. But we knee-jerked when we were planning what to put in those entryway beds. We thought, well, there was way too many sweet potato vines. We're just not going to do that this year. And I do miss it. I feel like it brings a lightness, a freshness to the area, but I need to figure out how many I planted that first year and have it. Because it was too many. What else? Oh, strike Supertunia Mini Vista Scarlet from the list. I probably won't repeat plant that one unless they turn around and we figure out it was a water issue more than a plant issue, but they're just not maintaining the color that I want them to maintain. But everything else is doing really well, and like I said, we'll be back here to give you more reports on how things are turning around and or filling in. So again, huge props to Rosa for all the work she does down here. Amazing job, and thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you're having a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.